Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spirit Switchboard. I'm your host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM out of New Orleans. Thanks for being here, everybody. A little bit of housekeeping things. If you are joining us on Facebook, if you could head over to StreamYard and just give Facebook permission to use your name and your profile picture, then we'll know who we're talking to. If you're participating with us in the chat, you can watch us live on Roku. If you look under UFO Paranormal Radio, you'll be able to find us there on Roku, and we are on YouTube with UFO Paranormal channel and the Spirit Switchboard channel as well. A few more things to share with you guys. Lots of things are coming up. For those of you that are new joining us here on Spirit Switchboard, thank you so much for being here. Those of you that have been following for a while, thank you so much. You are what makes the show what it is, joining in the chat and adding comments and questions. And I appreciate all of you for being here. Those that are new, I am a psychic medium out of Northern Ontario, Canada. I have a few things coming up that I wanted to share with you. If you head to my website, which is just carrieLynnShellhorn.com, you will be able to sign up for the newsletter. If you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get it all in your inbox. Everybody that's coming up on Spirit Switchboard for the upcoming month, all of the links to their books, their websites, all of their information. You'll get the heads up to any of the events that I have coming up. And we've added some new ones in the last 2 days that I haven't talked about publicly. So in the next few days, there'll be some announcements of new events that are coming up. I have an event. I'm really excited about this because Laura Lee Potvin, who's also a host here on UPRN with the Angel Rock on Mondays and the Thing at the Foot of the Bed with David Hansel on Thursdays. She is going to be presenting as well too at the Lake Superior Paracon. Jeff Belanger is going to be there. Shane Pittman. It's the guys from the Paranormal Voice, Dale Quigley and Michael John. There's just going to be a stacked weekend. If you get your all-day pass, I'll be giving messages at Spirits and Sweets on the Sunday as well too that you can do as an add-on. Hi, Jackie, Michelle, Joanne, Michelle and Julie, Contessa. It's really good to see all of you guys here today. Tomorrow, if you head over to the Paranormal Voice, the Windsor's Own on YouTube and follow them on YouTube, we are doing a special it's so stacked with people from the paranormal community from noon until I think that I'm close to the last guest, so 5:30, 6 o'clock. And it is a fundraiser for Shaylee Clace from the United States. So there is information on my Facebook page about that as well too. It's so full of amazing people going to be coming on to show support for Shaylee and her cancer journey that she's on currently. And you know, we've all been affected by cancer, and her family is very supportive within the paranormal community, and we just like to show support for her and her family and what they're going through right now. Hi, Heather. Oh, hi. So Pam Noon from Sarnia. I was just in Sarnia working. Right, let me get to my guest. I'm really anxious to bring him on and get this conversation going because I know that you guys have been eager to be a part of this. Today's guest is Dr. Scott Guerin. The driving force behind Dr. Scott Guerin's life has been his passion for unraveling the mysteries of God, universe, and the source, and the intricate tapestry of their relationship with humanity. A distinguished author, educator, and retired healthcare professional, Scott is committed to the exploration of spiritual development. Please welcome to the show, Scott Guerin.
Hello, Carolyn. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
great introduction.
I'm excited about talking about angels, quite a bit actually, because I find there's this wibbly wobbly line that's getting less wibbly wobbly, and it being acceptable to talk about angels a little more out loud, a little more publicly, and moving it from being attached to a specific organized religion and dogma into something much bigger. And I remember, like, I grew up in Northern Ontario, and there was no like we went to a community hall for Sunday school, and it was, you know, we sang songs and we did plays at all the holidays for all of, like, I don't know, 6 different communities, right? Gathered all at this one little hall. And that was my, I don't know, my taste of religion, except if I spent a night at a friend's house. So I went to a Baptist church once, and I left crying to my aunt's house because it was it was loud. I went to a Catholic church as an adult, just seeking. And then when I had my kids were talking about angels, and I had never talked about them. So it opened up this whole new world with them as little people, remembering something bigger than what I was remembering at the time.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of people are interested in angels now because they're safer in a sense, you know, as people are moving from organized religion or discovering a spirituality within their religion. It you know, it's free of all the dogma and, you know, in some cases judgmental, you know, messages and stuff. So it's safer, and I think that's part of the movement.
Yeah. I as a single person who talks to people that are crossed over full time as a career, it's very hard to date. And I had a date with this fellow who came only to tell me that I was cursed 10 generations back by God on the father's side.
Wow. Yeah.
It was like I said to him, I was really horrified at the beginning. And then I think I recovered really quickly. And I said, thank you. You can go home and pray for me. And it's how great that you spent like an hour and a half of your time just to come all this way and tell me.
Yeah. Wow.
It's crazy how fixed those belief systems can be, and how it really is life altering when you start pulling it apart and seeing from like an emotionally detached, not charged point of view, and seeing with that inside spiritual eye at the bigger picture and the connection of it.
Yeah. Like a good friend of mine read my book, and he's an engineer. He kind of comes through things like, you know, practically and stuff. And he goes, I don't believe in angels because they're not scientifically validated and proven, you know, to be true. Now, I knew he was a Catholic and pretty committed Catholic. So I said, really, you need to have scientific proof. Huh? He goes, absolutely. I said, yet you believe in the virgin birth, resurrection, and forgiveness of sins.
Yeah.
He goes, without scientific proof. I'm like, well, yeah, but that's different. You know, so it's like, that type of, I don't like getting into those types of conversations, but that one was kind of it's thrust upon me.
Yeah, and I find it's, I don't know, it is life changing when you allow yourself into that, and however you need to get there. For me, looking at angels, I saw them no different than I saw spirit guides. It was all part of this different dimensional realm and different layers of those different dimensional places. Yeah. And if I was leaning in and it felt like a warm blanket out of the dryer that you're wrapped in, it makes it feel light and expansive, then you're heading in the right direction. How could that be steering you wrong?
I mean, if it helps, I have kind of like a model of how things are kind of organized, you know, in that sense, as far as angels go.
Could you start with sharing how you had that interaction with your pastor that sort of led everything?
Yeah. So the what happened was when I was very young, a young teenager, I just was fascinated with God, the Spirit, what's going on out there. I was always asking questions about, to myself about life and things like that. And then we were going to a Lutheran church, our family, and in the Lutheran church you have confirmation classes, which is grade 7 and grade 8. And my siblings told me that, they're all older. In grade 7 is intro type of things, and then in grade 8, you have to take sermon notes and hand them in. But I was so into it, I started taking notes, sermon notes in grade 7. So, a year earlier. And even though I was a horrible student, like in general back then, I was so fascinated. I wanted to know, I wanted to know everything. So I took down notes, I filed them away. And then the next year came along where we had to submit them in. And I noticed, like after about the third week, like, wait a minute, this looks familiar. So I went back and looked at my notes and like, wow, this was the same sermon he gave last year about this time. And so, I was like, well, there must be some profound reason. Like maybe we didn't get it and God told him, like, you have to tell them again, or maybe there was new people in that had to happen. There must be something because there had, something godly. So I got the nerve after a few weeks because I was a kid and he was this larger than life figure, very kind, but he always had a stoic look to himself and walking around. And I got him after a service where he's like shaking hands with everybody. And I said, Pastor, I noticed that you repeated sermons from last year. And I just wanted to know why, like, how did this come to be? And he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, Scott, this is a tough job. and that, for me, my world just cracked in half. So there's God, my path to God, my only known path to God is, treating it like a job. And I saw, kind of the man behind the curtain type of thing. And from then on, that's when my journey started. Absolutely. And so it started there. Then my family went into the conservative Christian born again movement, and I looking for answers and looking for a connection, because that's the introduction to that movement is to have a personal relationship with Jesus. So I'm like, I'm all in, I'm with the connection. And then, after a few years, I kind of noticed, that it was a kind of a contained box, and, there was conditions, to that. And then I left to go to Presbyterian church, and that was a little bit better because it's not so heavy-handed. But all in. I was elder, taught Sunday school for 25 years, for 15 years. And then at that same time, my life was kind of falling apart personally. We had 3 kids, but we ended up in divorce. And I was at, just rock bottom. And I said, praying to God, like, hey, I'm a freaking elder. Like these things shouldn't happen. I shouldn't feel this way. I should be supported and all that. But that didn't happen. So after a very dark night, I just kind of said, all right, that's it. F religion. I'm going to delve into psychology and find the answers there. So that's when and just like all, prior experiences with religions, speaking spirit, I did the same thing in psychology, trying to find out, how do we learn? How do we learn about God? How do we grow? How do we comprehend things outside of ourselves? Those types of things. So the coursework was human development, where we got into all different ways, humans develop from, all the different established theories. But every time I could, I would try and plug in spiritual development. How does the spiritual development component align in or fit in with known, theories of human development? And so that's kind of how my path went into psychology. And then a few number of years after that, I was concentrating in meditation techniques. And then a year and a half ago, I got involved with this book, our Looking for Angels book with my co-author Nichole Bigley, and then which is she's an intuitive, and all our guests on that podcast are mediums and intuitives and astrologers. So that whole area of my life exploded, and the last year and a half has been an incredible ride.
Do you find it's like the little opening up to that puzzle piece that's sort of been missing? Because I find when I'm connecting, whether it's angels coming through, spirit guides, people that are crossed over in spirit, the responses that I get back from people who have been going to grief counseling, to therapy, always say that's the puzzle piece that's helped put all of the other stuff into perspective, is that spiritual piece. I think not connected to religion, a specific religion, but just that spiritual piece, and having that connection and learning that they can lean in and feel those signs and synchronicities coming from their loved ones, so they don't feel so disconnected.
Yeah, absolutely. And even up until a year and a half ago, when I just started getting into, I'll say the spirit world and spirit connections, if somebody asked me a year and a half ago, do you have psychic abilities? I'd say hard no, sorry. And then if somebody said, do you have a spirit team? I'd say no, no, I don't. But in learning how to ask, and learning how to expect, and learning how to look for answers,
trust,
all of that trust, absolutely, that is what opened up the door. And it started with a spirit animal that I asked for. I read an article, you can ask for a spirit animal. Like, okay, I'll ask for one. And the next morning, Shira appears, and she's my leopard that's with me in my mind's eye, very real since then. And then since then, other members of my spirit team have made an appearance, I'll say, for lack of better words. And so, like, absolutely.
I find my interactions that I've had with angels specifically were so impactful. And I find from personal experience and observation and I've been doing this work full time, just over 17 years now, full time. Wow. So people want their loved ones in spirit, but when they turn to angels, it's really in that moment of needing hope. Like they just need something to ground them and give them hope. And when they come in, it's powerful. Like when angels come in, it's especially archangels. Like I'm always like, are you sure you know what you're asking for? Because it's going to be big, powerful, and you better be ready. Because it moves you forward. It propels you forward. And once you get going forward, there's no backpedaling.
Yes, that's it. And I learned along the way, to set energetic boundaries. I don't want 10-foot anything appearing in my bedroom at night, at least right now, So I just say, please help me, expand my understanding and involvement. But I'd rather not be, startled at this point. So, and I'm kind of hedging on that a little bit now. Like, I think I'm ready for a greater experience.
Because we have free will, so we're able to.
Yes.
I think that people forget what free will is actually about. So they think, okay, I'm having a connection and it's a gift. And so I have to accept the gift however it's being presented to me, without realizing when you hold your breath, you're disconnecting yourself. So if you're not comfortable, it's not going to work. Yeah.
Well, that's why I say, free will is good and bad. The good thing is, we have free will, we can do whatever we want. In a sense, the bad news is that we forget that we have very powerful and influential beings standing there waiting for us to ask them. And we don't. The classic male, like, I never asked for directions,
Right. That's so, it's not just men. It is
not.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah. So
I did that today. I reached out and I asked somebody for help today. And that was huge. And it was work related. work related help that I was asking for, and I just don't do that. And I'm like, it's a gold star sticker day, because like what I did was, it was a good learning moment that, that I could ask and I would receive, that I freed up some mental space so I could stay focused on the task that I was doing. And I knew that I was being supported in the way that I needed. Right. So, and it brought them joy, which does for our divine team on the other side too. It brings them joy. When we are when we are joyful and at peace, we can be more of service with our path and purpose. So we're not distracted.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, my gift, my strongest gift now is clairvoyance. So I really rely on the pictures and the mental images that have been there all along. I think about it now, and I'm realizing who is giving me this information, or that this information is really coming to me from outside of myself. But I had those feelings all along my whole life, and I just never realized it.
Do you find it's the language that we use that could disconnect us as well too? Like we all have maybe different spirit language and what we're calling them, gut feelings versus intuition.
Yes.
Yes.
A lot of people ask me and they go, well, how can I get started with this? I said, well, first, just look around you and notice the synchronicities, the butterfly that doesn't go away, from your car, or, or a synchronistic moment, or, repeated numbers, or a song comes on the radio that you hadn't, heard in many years. And those types of things, you start to open up. And we have to kind of retrain ourselves, maybe not retrain, but train ourselves to listen at another level before we start, kind of concretizing, how spirit is interacting with us.
It's letting go of expectation, that high intention, low attachment.
Yeah.
Or, how we're approaching it.
Well, and we're plugged into this physical world, this third dimension, and all its expectations, and what other people have taught us is the way things go. And so to step out of that box a little bit, to verbalize that, hey, I thought I saw, a good friend of mine was visiting relatives on the west coast of the U.S., and she heard her name called out, and no one was there, like urgently. And she called me and was freaking out, like, what's happening? And I said, don't. And she has no spiritual religious background at all. It was a brand new supernatural thing for her. And so I was able to kind of help her kind of normalize it, like these things happen, and it's not bad. I gave her a little prayer of protection she could use. And, but it was that type of thing, which I think is happening more and more. I think we're on, you see what you think of this, on the cusp of a major change in our spirit, in the global spiritual levels of humanity. And that veil between our world and the spirit world is getting very thin. So I think there's going to be a lot of experiences, a lot of people coming into even psychic senses, and maybe seeing angels, or maybe seeing a loved one. It's going to happen more and more and more as we evolve into our next phase of human development.
Yeah, I agree. And more people are asking to achieve that more conscious awareness. They're wanting to move forward. And I find, like, when I first started doing this full time, I mean, I've had this connection from the time I was little, but when I started doing this full time, seeing it as a gift. So I was not very good. I'm still not always very good with my boundaries. They can be wibbly wobbly, and I'm like, yes, I can, sure I can, no problem, and stuck a little too much, right? Recovering people pleaser. So with what I did though along the way was shift in who I wanted and who I felt would be in alignment with me as a client. Okay, the first time for me to get you there, and then the second time, and it's been this way ever since, where they're wanting to grow their own connections so they don't have to rely on me, and making sure that's, and that's how it rolls, which is exciting. Like, to watch people have their own aha moments and their own connections is such a rewarding place for me.
Well, and you bring up a good point that I like to bring up, because sometimes people feel intimidated with someone like you that has had a connection, very strong connection for forever. And what I say is that there are three ways we can get to a robust connection with spirit. One is that you're born that way, like yourself. Like co-author of the book, Nichole Bigley, is one also. Even before she was born, she has those memories. So that's one way. The second way is trauma, unfortunately. A lot of people that go through severe trauma have, and they go through an awakening. And then the third is what I say, the rest of us, that we can learn. And that was the biggest holdout for me. It's like, I'd hear like Carolyn Mice, right? The famous medical intuitive, and at the end of every session, she'd say, everyone has this ability. Everyone, like, shut up. I don't have a bone in my body that can do that. But now, after some digging in, I took a mediumship course, and you do some digging on your own, and you trust, and you ask, and you wait, and it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
I feel that's a big part for people to recognize, is the letting go. The more you're in a non-thinking mode and you're just, doing the things that bring you joy and fueling your spirit up, those aha moments just plop into your thoughts, and it's easier to feel or see the signs. When you're really hanging on tight, waiting for it to come, you just start creating a block for yourself. You're holding your breath and you're not at ease, right?
And, sadly, I think that a lot of people would say that when they first are getting into this, if they brought it up to their friends and family, they wouldn't be welcomed in open arms. Like, oh, really, Scott, you really spoke to our, wrestling coach in high school that passed in 2015, or they just give you the side eye, like, oh, yeah. And then you just have to go with that, and just say, this is more important than my aligning with their, limiting perspectives.
And I find when we take accountability and we really step in our power and our truth, then we start mirroring that gift to other people, that they can do the same.
Yes.
Inevitably, somebody will pull you aside in the corner at that party and go, hey, I got an angel story for you too.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's got a story, but they just don't necessarily say it out loud.
And Carolyn, I say this a lot, is that I feel that that's what my purpose in life is to have, to be a bridge, to help people make those steps, just like I was in for so many years, to take that next step and say, it's okay. One time my mom, when she was alive, she came to my house, and I had this small kind of shelf in the library, and I have like books like, Ram Dass and Eckhart Tolle and spiritual leaders, and all this, and Wayne Dyer and all that. And she looks at it, she goes, I go, you see anything there you like, Mom? She goes, Scott, I kind of think you're going to go to hell. I'm like, Mom, I'm not, what? And she said, yeah, these are things that we never really talked about in our churches. And I'm like, Mom, I'm not going to go to hell. I promise you, I'm not going to go to hell. And she says, okay, all right, I'm not going to ask you any more questions.
So it's fascinating. My grandmother, my mom's mom, went to a German-speaking Lutheran church. So
they were
yes,
stalwart, yeah,
yes. And my mom's best friend, my mother's best friend, was the Baptist church secretary.
Oh boy, you got both
Oh,
Both
it gets
angles
better.
there, man.
My grandmother's hairstylist was a Jehovah Witness lady.
Oh, geez.
So there was a no there too. But I just always, like, I have found all of those people who had that religious background here, when they pass, they come through in sessions all the time. I've had a Baptist minister come through apologizing to me for having preached for 40 years that I would be talking to the devil,
Oh,
like,
boy.
or doing devil's work. So I don't have that chip on my shoulder as much as I did before, because I have had these beautiful experiences of seeing through someone who's passed, seeing through their eyes, being in their body through their eyes at their time of death, and seeing what happens for them on the other side. Through, you know, it's and feeling like that's home.
Right. Oh, I love that. I just heard it. Rumi's quote: "We're all walking each other home."
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was like, what a wonderful way to look at it. You know, gently. Some people don't want to go home. You know, they don't want to walk with you. I'm like, no.
Yeah,
Others get it. Like, yeah.
And if we are looking at that collective consciousness of one, we've all agreed to be here with every other person on this planet.
Yeah.
We have all agreed to be here at this point in time. So, you know, even those people who may be frustrating to us, seeing from an emotionally detached, spiritual point of view, that we did agree to be here with those people, right? Michelle is just asking, how do we make it easier to have a more open dialogue with each other about angels' experiences, or searching for answers, perhaps?
Well, I mean, you know, like any conversation, you can only manage your side of the road. You know, you can't control what other people are going, you know, their biases or their, you know, positive or negative. So you have to kind of look at it that way. And then certainly no judgment. I mean, anytime you go to anyone and say, I've got something better than I thought I had, and, you know, a lot of people just become defensive. You know, I say I'm a vegetarian, and people who eat meat, they start just getting defensive. So if you say, you know, I've made a connection with the spirit world more than I ever thought, you know, they're defensive. So I think part of it is to understand where they're coming from, and very gently say, you know, you don't have to believe this. I'm not saying you have to, but this is my experience, and kind of go along that way is the best way. And be honest in yourself, and they'll see it, you know. So, yeah, I think making the interaction non-judgmental, just experiential from your heart, and that's all we can do.
Yeah. Can I add? Are you okay?
Sure.
If I add to that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I always encourage people to remember, like, when we're on that path, we're very focused that we have a divine team, and we have a team of angels, and we have this bigger that's collected to all that is the same as us. So remembering that those people who are not in that place of remembering that they too have that divine team. So asking your higher self and divine team to talk to their higher self and divine team, and when they're ready, put those signs in place for them to be open to more of a conversation, or asking what they're scared of and what do they need to not be scared, and can love bring that to them, and not worrying about hearing a response, just putting it out to that higher self as well too.
Yes. And then they may get a sign, or a little wake up call, or a big wake up call, you know, near death experience or something like that. And then you'll be the person that they'll say, you know, to go to, like, you know, a year ago, we said, you told me about this, like, I had this experience, like, what do you think? So
so don't negate that, just initiating the conversation, even if it's not welcome in the moment, that it's still planting a seed that you don't know what may happen in the future. Karenina is sharing, I have awakened, but how do I go further?
Well, I would say, you know, getting back to the free will thing, you know, ask, you know, is one thing. Like, ask, what do you want? You know, what do you want to do? What in what particular way do you want to go further? You know, like, I have an interest in tarot cards, you know, just to check it out. And there's a lot of psychological work done with that. So, like, that's one way I'm kind of going, but whatever way you want to understand what clair you have, clairvoyance, cognizance, the 9 most popular clairs. Do you think you have that? Then, look into that, read it. I mean, the internet is wonderful. And you want to be a healer, then that's perfect. You have that focus. You can start certainly reading, researching, and then connecting with maybe have a couple sessions with a healer. There's lots of workshops, how to heal. Is it energy healing? Is it whatever specific area you want to go in, but most importantly, how your healing energies are coming out. Is it an energy healing thing? Is it Reiki? A lot of mediums and psychics that I've worked with start out as Reiki masters. They just go through, and I think it's popular because it gets you into the mode of helping, concentrating on your patient and their energies and their body. And then the rest will come to you, absolutely. But you have a lot of resources to choose from right now.
And finding a community, a community that you feel is safe to be vulnerable.
Yes. Like a physical community would be, a local community would be the best, but depending on where you are. But yeah, and you probably already are a healer and have been
exactly
in your lifetime, and you haven't even known it. You said the right thing at the right time, or you might have made a suggestion to someone, and I bet you
share their stories at the bus stop in the grocery line.
I bet you people feel that you're a healer now. Like they would say, "Yeah, I bet you she is."
Okay. Let's see, there was some here. I need to highlight these. Michelle is just following up about having the difficult conversations or opening up those conversations. She's saying, yes, it can be a subject matter that has so much diversity. Speak from your heart.
Yes.
Sandra Rose is just asking, can the spirits or angels heal connections between the living?
I assume like relationships, maybe people who aren't getting along, that type of thing. Well, the first thing we got that good and bad, free will thing.
Free will.
So people to be on both sides. People have to want to connect in order for both sides to connect. You can always try. One side can try and make the connection. You can, pray and seek their help in helping you say the right thing, do the right thing. Maybe not get emotionally involved in whatever it may. I don't know what exactly the situation is, but make sure your heart and your intentions and your actions are the best it can be and the best for their good and yours. And then they're going to have to kind of come around on their side to make it work. It really takes two.
And there's so much to that. There's so much depth. It's just trying to find a simple response to that is difficult because it's such a multifaceted question, right? Like even when we're doing our own personal healing work, when we are releasing, remembering that we're asking that energy that's released to be transmuted back into love. So those extra people who may be in raw place don't feel even more irritated and give us more of what we don't want, like whatever agitation that they have. Like there's lots to it, right? And the free will is a hard one. And remembering that we've all are playing a role. So even though it may look like that is uncomfortable, it's still a role that's needing to be played for them in that moment, right? And for everybody around them.
Yeah, and we have to remember that we all create our own realities, and we all create our own world. And the sky isn't the same shade of blue in someone else's life as ours because of your experiences, your education, your background, whatever it may be. So you may just say one word that is fine for you, and then that'll just trip something, negative in that person. So,
Yeah.
there is a bit of a gap. We all don't have the same exact experiences and values and understanding. So yeah, be patient and things will hopefully work out.
Heather Martle is asking, do the angels know how much you are hurting?
I would say yes. It is in context, though. I mean, I think our pain is in context with our lives, our experience, the here and now. So they may be able, what I believe they're able to perceive is also the bigger picture, and so, but they can't come down and say like, look, this is really nothing. It's going to pass. That doesn't help.
Yeah, I say they hold the book of like the choose your own adventure of Carrie Lynn's life story, and they're waiting to see if you're choosing page 32 or 89.
Yes. Yeah, and who knows? You may have, and this is always a little tricky, but you may have chosen a path of pain, and that's a lesson that you need to learn. I'm not saying that's true for everyone, but they certainly will help you wherever you want to go. If you want to get out of that, they will help. You have to ask, and you have to expect and trust, like you mentioned. So yes, absolutely.
How do you feel media has influenced our perspective and how we perceive angels?
Well, waxes and wanes. I mean, media in general is so far removed from reality on so many aspects, but certainly the movies and
Della Reese. She would be
yes.
my first angel memory of seeing anything on TV about angels.
Yeah. So we have to kind of look through that. I mean, people have to fill box office sales and things like that, so they make things dramatic. But certainly we have to look through that facade and treat it as a facade, and really get into like working with yourself or other people and understanding, really reading and delving into the subject about what it's like to be a light worker, what it's like to, just understanding that spirit is not judgmental is almost impossible, like growing up without really having to experience it. Many angel stories that I'm most impressed with are the ones where someone hears something and they go into another room and they just see a glowing light. Maybe it's blue, maybe it's Archangel Michael. Who knows? It's not a figure, it's just a light. And for about 15 seconds, they experience unconditional love. Yes. And it blows them away. It changes their life because we don't have it in this world, very often. There are people certainly that are loving, but not on a regular basis, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. I 100% agree, because we will get irritated by somebody and we will not talk to them for an hour. That's not unconditional love. That's conditional. Like we have this punishment where we hold ourselves back, and that's and that's not unconditional love. We're still loving people, but we have those moments, right? We all have those moments, and
part of the I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
So part of this, when you look at human development in terms of dimensional reality, there's lots of different sources. Many of them are non-physical sources that let us know about these things. But most agree that the level we're in now is a physical dimension, physicality. And the couple of characteristics, one is that there is a me, not me. There's a duality there. And so that duality sets up judgment, right off the bat. And there's some other things as well. But when we move into the fourth dimension, which I think is where our planet is moving, that idea of duality disappears. And we start seeing that, we are connected. And when we do send a missile into a town, we're killing ourselves. Like, so it's those types of ideas that will become more like, oh, I get it now,
Mhm.
and then hence the judgment will fade away, is on the way to fading away. Put it that way.
My youngest kiddo, when he was small, like 3, which is very big, like between age 2 and 3, they really do have a lot of stories and connections that come out about the other
Yeah,
side.
yeah.
And he was 3, and I was having a lot of back pain that day, and I was laying down, and he came up behind me, and he's like, "It's okay." Oh my gosh, he just had the cutest little voice too, like the epitome little person voice. "It's okay, Mama. I know what to do." And he clapped his hands, and he rubbed them, and then
Whoa.
he held them out, and he was doing like Reiki energy, but I had not at that point, taken a course to do this
Neither
with.
one of you knew what was going on.
Didn't talk to him about angels, didn't do any of this stuff, but he was doing it. I could feel that energy coming from him and healing my back, or I wasn't feeling that pain anymore. And I'm like, "Hey, little man, how'd you learn how to do that?" And what I asked him was, "How do you know where to move the pain from my back? How do you know?" And he just kept doing it. And he's a kid that's kind of stoic. He's got a little bit of that, German feel to him. And he's like, "Archangel Michael takes it away." Like I was the dumbest mother in the world. Like, what do you mean you don't?
Course, like,
I'm here to help you remember. Are you not catching up with me yet?
Yeah.
That's where we were at. And his experiences were like that. And I remember calling a friend and crying, like, "This dude picked me to be his mom. I don't know if he knew what he was doing."
Be sure you got the right address.
But even but it was great, because at that point in time, I was really kind of coming out of that witchy woo closet and letting people know, okay, I've had this ability for a very long time. And I felt it was important for me to step into on a louder public please to support these kiddos, because my kiddos were having all of these same experiences that I did with no support. And I wanted them to feel like it was safe in our home to talk about it, have it, experience it. And so I started my journey with a parenting radio show for parenting kids that were having experiences, and that's where we came. But it's powerful. It's powerful when they remember.
When I was researching the book, I have a chapter on psychological perspectives of angels. And in that I have, and I believe the number is 38% of children between ages of 6 and 12 have invisible friends that are, very real to them. And the parents are kind of startled that they have this dialogue with something that's not there. And I mean, personally, I believe very much that they are interacting with the spiritual world. But at age 5, once they get into school, those things go away. Why? Because they probably bring it up, like, "Oh, my invisible friend, whoever is here," and they're like, and they get laughed at, and I'm like, well, that's they're not bringing that up again. But in like you have a wonderful perspective on it, that if parents did that and encouraged it, if their child says, "I have an invisible friend," nurture it and go with it, and and so that's what I think should happen.
And I find it helps the parents remember the time that they too had their imaginary friend when they were, and it helps trigger, so that it helps elevate that collective consciousness of one in unity within it, and expands that community. Hi, Paranormal Theory. Thanks for being here. I was pretty excited when I saw that you were going to be with Rhonda on her show.
Oh, right. Oh, cool.
Pam is just sharing, "I felt the warmth from my friend who passed. It was beautiful." And there's a lightness and an expansiveness to it. And home. That's the word that I always come back to, like a home feeling when you are connected to them in a way that we don't experience here.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll ask, like, how do you know? And I'm like, okay, suppose the proverbial you hit, there's a noise downstairs. You in the middle of the night go down and there's a being there. And then so what is it? Is it an angel? Is it a past loved one? Is it a extraterrestrial? or what I say, was it too much vodka from the night before?
Right.
But and then how do you know? And then that's really it, is to be able to uh, develop your senses, to be able to discern, and understand what the difference, like you saying, archangel feels different than guardian angel, feels different than a loved one. And and thank you for saying that, by the way. The person who I have a connection with now, that is the feeling I get, is home, even though he wasn't a family member, but you get that feel of home. And then I don't know what your take is on ETs and how this fits in with this or doesn't, but
it does.
It does. Okay. That's it's a slightly different feeling as well.
Yeah. My dear friend, Deborah Morse, is sharing felt in the heart rather than in the mind.
Yes.
And that's what I encourage people to, is you're moving out of your thinking and into your feeling. And the more that you can switch that language to, I feel this is happening, I feel this, it's easier to lean in when those things that are outside of the normal are happening, right? And the names, people get very caught up with wanting to name what they are feeling from the other side. But just like with your friend, you probably recognized your friend with the vibration and feel of your friend before you had a name to your friend, because you recognize that vibration. So the more that we play in that realm, the more we can identify by the vibration without needing a label.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. From again, the people who really have presented these models of dimensional reality, the fourth dimension, language goes away, and it's all telepathy and feeling. And at the same time, when people say, like, how do I know if this is a thing, if what this person said to me was correct, they go to have a reading, and I said, it rings true to you, like it. And that, again, that's the feeling. And so we're kind of trained not to trust our feelings, but it's really counterintuitive to not trust. We have to learn to let go, trust, and go with things.
Yeah. When my little guy was small, he used to wake up so irritable, like not sleeping really well. And I asked him, because I saw it with my inside eye kind of what was happening. So I asked him, I said, are you flying with angels at nighttime? And he's like, yes, the grandma is there. And I'm like, okay. So so then our bedtime routine included saying, there is no astral traveling, there is no nighttime traveling, there's no downloads, no talking to angels, because you during the work week need to sleep and rested so that you're okay in the morning, that we all get along. I need to like you in the morning.
Yes. Wow.
So if we're going to do any of this kind of work we're going to do it on a Friday night and a Saturday night. And that's what you tell them. You're not allowed to bug me at this time. We have a date with my mom on like Friday night at 10.
Yeah, that's energetic boundaries. We have to learn that as we get into the spirit world and interacting with them.
And that they don't get angry with those boundaries, because they're it's a dance that you're trying to figure out with them and what's going to work best for you so that you can learn and continue expanding, right?
Yes, yeah, that's the thing with unconditional love and acceptance, is that they're all about you, and your journey. They have everything they need. They don't have any wants, so they're totally fine to wait until you ask for them to take action.
Anita is sharing, love to hear about angels. How do you focus? One time I saw bright lights like the sun.
Well,
with my mom.
I'm a huge proponent of quieting the mind. We're in a game, and I spent a lot of years going into different meditation practices. I went to a Vipassana meditation retreat. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a 12-day or 10-day silent retreat where you quiet your mind. And I kind of learned what it felt like to have no thoughts. But when you can get there, however you get there, listening to music, going for a walk, that's when you can start feeling, the presence of a specific angel, or you call on your spirit team, or your spirit animal, or a loved one. You have to kind of get away. I call it the game show reality. Game show reality, whereas in our world now, our physical world that we're looking at now, there's buzzers and whistles and spinning dials, and we have to get behind that because it really is like the Matrix, the movie Matrix, where we have to unplug and learn to live in the spiritual world.
Mm-hmm. And it really truly is that non-thinking space where that connection is going to happen, and knowing that how it works for you in this moment will grow and shift and change as your awareness and connection grows as well too. It doesn't have to stay the same the whole time. It will grow with you.
Yeah, like I started scrying.
Yeah,
like it's a few months ago.
I love scrying.
And I was just like, all right, well, I'll try this, and I start writing, and I'm like, I can't ask a question. At least for me, I can't ask a question.
Yeah,
I can't change the dialogue, because that's how I know if it's me or spirit. If I can change the dialogue, then I know it's me. But if it's just coming through, and so you just get that feeling like, wow, this is coming from outside.
I've encouraged people to even write the list of, you can look them up and find all kinds of books that list different archangels. Write them out and ask, like when you're going into a meditation, to ask to connect to Archangel Michael, your heart space to his, and his to yours, or theirs to yours, however you want to phrase that. And you can feel what that vibration feels like. And once you do, it's like, thank you so much. Can you step back? And now can my grandma pull in? And you start to feel how all of those different energies feel, and comfortable with it. What I find, most people have a loved one. If for you, it's your friend or whoever, it's a loved one that will come in first, so you feel comfortable to allow all those other energies to come in. Can you speak to something like that? Like how to help people not be scared and opening up?
Well, first of all,
because people are always like, I just want my people.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
What if somebody else's people show up?
Well, and a shameless plug for the book, we have a list of deities, ascended masters, archangels, and characteristics of them. Archangel Michael is normally associated with the color blue, and we'll get down to the crystals and even zodiac signs that they're supported to. So if you if you're having an entity coming in and you want to find out who they are, that's one way to do it. And then also, if you want to call in a specific entity, like for me, Archangel Gabriel is a big go-to person, because it's all about communication. And that kind of came through to me. And when I was writing the book, and a couple friends, I said, when writing, sometimes I get this like kind of poke in the back of my shoulder, and I'm kind of got distracted, and I'll get a poke, and they said, well, that's Archangel Michael, like kind of helping you get focused again.
I just want to put this up for a second. I'll share this with you. Ryan from Paranormal Theory is just sharing, him and his sister Emily, they lost their mom almost a month ago. When she's around, we definitely feel her differently than, say, a random spirit when we go to locations. I've been holding you and Emily in my heart, thoughts, and meditations, Ryan, thinking about you. And we will feel our loved ones, and that's part of you know, when we have our babies and we give them a bath and we dry them off and we brush their hair and we rub their legs, when we have our family and we're hugging them, our friends and we're hugging them, we're in their energetic space. So it's familiar to us.
Yes.
So that energy is what we are feeling when they no longer have the meat suit, when they're no longer in that physical body. We're feeling, could you talk about?
Yeah, it's like an energetic fingerprint, you know, and all the different colors and variations, you know, we portray as an individual. We're portraying a certain combination, say, and frequency that is, you know, familiar, you know, and that's what we pick up. And so when we go to a world, say the fourth dimension without words, that's how we communicate, is through feelings and thoughts directly. So you know exactly who you know more about that person, you know, than you ever have on Earth, because we're limited to our, you know, language and, you know, what they're wearing and blah 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 blah. You know, so
Yeah, and I find too, it's because the ego is removed, so the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, any itty bitty titty thinking, all of the traumas, hurts, perceived hurts and perceived traumas, all of these things as well too, that that hold us back from really fully being ourselves. So when we do pass it and people are just feeling our energy, they really are feeling our most authentic self when they are tapping in, and we do get to know them on a whole different level. And again, it brings them joy to connect with us. You know, it brings them joy to help us learn about ourselves on different levels.
Yeah. You know, one thing that came up a few months ago, I was listening to a show with Jessica Zweig, Zweig, and she's a medium and, you know, very much a light worker. And she said, you know, we can't diminish the importance of this physical world. Like, it is very dense, it is very slow, and time is, you know, a major component, obviously. But she says the spirit world says, like, oh, you're so lucky. Like, you can go for a walk in the park, you can go to a movie, you can kiss your dog, you can, you know. And from a spirit perspective, they miss that. You know, I guess, you know, I don't know if they miss it, but they look at us as having an opportunity within our world right now, our lives. And many times, me included, it's so like sluggish, like, I don't want to do this, I'm tired, you know. Living in the spiritual world seems so much kind of nicer, but we have so much to learn in this physical realm that you know, we can't just bypass it.
And shifting the perspective.
Yes.
How great that I get to go to work. How great.
Yes.
How great, you know, and shifting the perspective.
Yeah. The idea of gratitude has so much spiritual power.
Yeah.
We have no idea. And those people that you know who are joyful and happy, you look at them and you'll say, wow, they are full of gratitude and love.
Yeah. Thanks, Deb. Deb is saying this.
Thanks, Deb.
So you two are great.
Cheerleader, yay.
Yeah. Deb is a brilliant light, and she has sort of been with me right from the start when Gav was having those experiences. Deb has been a friend in my corner during that time period. Ryan from Paranormal Theory is just sharing, my mom had a necklace that we have been looking for about 2 years. The other night, my sister saw a light turn on near my mom's bedroom. And when she went in, the necklace was on the middle of the dresser.
Wow. And you wonder if it was there all along or what was put there, you know, and a light went on, like, okay, here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when those things happen, a real sign.
And helps. And Ryan, I was thinking about that for you and Emily too, how your mom knew how much you guys were connected to the other side and investigating, and for sure she will do all of the things that she can to show you, give you that evidence and make you feel connected.
And that's another thing. I mean, not, I'm not in a critical way, but we all tend to think of that it's on the other side, or, it's out there. People who have died are away. They're far away, angels. No, we are multi-dimensional beings. And so the fourth dimension, fifth, sixth, seventh is all right here, right around us. Our loved ones are right here, right around us, angels, guides, and they're not in some distant place.
That's amazing, Ryan. I hope that she continues for you guys, turning on the lights, giving you signs.
She's upfront about giving the signs.
Yeah. So where do night terrors fit into that dimensional space?
Well, that's a fascinating topic, because my oldest son experienced them when he was, I don't know, probably 7 or 8, I would think. And and he wasn't an emotional, type of kid. He was a normal kid, but whatever he was experiencing, he was witnessing something that terrified him so much. I didn't even know what to do. I mean, I thought he needed sedation or take him to a hospital. I mean, he was physically shaking because he was seeing something. And so, what is that? We don't, no one really knows. It could have been a glimpse into another reality that just freaked him out, or it could have been a harmful spirit, maybe poking its head around. Don't really know. From my perspective, I mean, see what you think, but sure. It's common, not to demean it, but it's common, with kids and having night terrors. So for whatever it is, if it's a spiritual thing, if it's just a hormonal thing, if it's just a nightmare thing, don't really know. I think the practical thing to do is to say a prayer of protection. For your son or daughter when they're having that. That whatever happens, he's protected for his highest and greatest good, from his angels and guides. But what's your take on that?
I have 4 children. My second kiddo was the one that had all of the night terrors, and when he would explain, or when he would talk about it, for me, it felt like he was going to that place where people watch their life review. So we're seeing all of the things that people had done that was harmful or hurtful to other people and themselves. So I feel he was kind of in that, nighttime traveling, right? Where his spirit's doing that nighttime traveling. So again, the conversation was, you go from here to the 5th dimension and up. You go from here to where, these angels are hanging out, and you go above, or you just don't. And when I did the prayer for them, over them when they were sleeping, I always added that they had permission to let go of anything that they brought forward from a past lifetime, alternate reality or alternate dimension that wasn't going to serve their highest good here, and be in alignment with their path and purpose that caught them off kilter. I try to blanket, make sure I go in every direction. I cover it in every way possible so that it is smooth and easy and has grace and ease. Thank you very much.
That's great. Well, it's great that you had that insight and knowledge to present them to them when they were young. When I got the idea, learned about the past lives, and we pick our parents, with the psychologist who did the hypnotherapy regression, I got that. We pick our parents. And I was like, someday I'm going to tell my kids about this. They're still teenagers. And when they're ready, maybe I'll tell them. And then there was something happened, like they wanted to go to the beach. And I'm like, no, we can't go to the beach. We can't have time. We have to do something else. And they're like, no, we hate you. You're a terrible parent. And I'm like, I blurted out like, well, you picked me, don't blame me. And they were like, it just stopped. It's like, what? What are you talking about? So then that was the time when I introduced them.
I did. I had to have the same conversation with two of my kids. I was like, you chose me to be your mom, and how is that feeling on you right now? Like, how's that feeling on you? Ryan is sharing, yeah, she's very upfront about giving us signs. She likes to turn on the lights.
Wow, yeah.
And I love this.
Yeah.
When she passed and was cremated, she was wearing a Paranormal Theory t-shirt.
Oh.
I love that. Hey, I told Rhonda about your What's Your Theory hoodies. You know, you're going to have to put a link for your swag because your stuff is so fun, Ryan. You really do a great job. It's a real pleasure watching you and your team evolve the way that you have been. Cindy is just sharing, I was taught as a little girl how to talk to my loved ones, as I always did. Exactly. We don't have to change how we speak to them. Contessa is sharing, so what is happening when we have nightmares? Are we viewing something from others?
Viewing something from others.
Potential dreams are complicated.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a mix. You know, it could be a remnant of the day. It could be a movie that you watched. It could be, I believe it's a very powerful way Spirit speaks to us is through our dreams. We did a research project for the book, and we asked 800 people if they believed in angels or not. And 600 of them said yes. And then out of those 600, we said, did you have a angelic experience or encounter? And 34% said yes. And then we asked, well, what was it? And the number one response was having dreams that are unlike any other dream. That's the number one response. And then the other responses were what you'd think. You know, they hear their name calling, no one's there, or having the sudden urge to stop, turn another direction.
Yeah.
Animals and instincts. But yeah, I think dreams are a big thing. So, and again, we don't, it's hard to say other than, lean into it, feel your way through, like you mentioned. And if it's something sinister, then you start praying, for protection. You start praying to your ascended master or deity or whoever on your spirit team that you want to intercede for that. And then, and that would take care of, in my mind, you do a prayer of protection to your spirit team that will protect you from evil spirits, from harmful people who've passed, and ETs.
Well, and I think, again, it comes back to trust. And sometimes people need to have an experience that's very uncomfortable in order for them to trust and rely that we do have this divine team. We do have these people, to open up to the spirit realm and connect with ascended masters, different deities, angels, really knowing that your divine team, even if you're not sure who they are, will be there to help you. So if you say, I need my angels to intervene now, they will. You just have to say, I need you now.
Yeah.
And they will intervene.
Yeah.
Tansy's asking, is there a reason why some folks are not chosen to be parents? Are those lessons that are individual for each person? Well, sometimes it's not about, if you believe that your higher self planned out, you also chose that path, not that you weren't chosen to. And I find people who don't have biological children tend to nurture many, many people.
Oh, right.
Still have that mothering or parental nurturing side that involves many people.
And, the concept of, whatever it may be, you have a spirit team before we're incarnated and we, say, okay, this is what you want to learn in this coming up lifetime. And then you plan the whole thing. It sounds good. But one time when I just kind of stumbled on this and was delving into this idea, a friend of mine and I were talking, and I said, yeah, we all plan our lives and what we're going to experience. and I, just as I said that, I forgot. I remembered that she was abused by a family member for years when she was a little girl.
Mm.
And then she was shaking, and she said, "You mean I planned that?" And I'm like, wow, well, that is so hard. It's so hard to just accept. So,
Mm-hmm.
the answer to the people who are authors of those theories say, yes, she did plan that, but you can't say that. That doesn't help at the time
No.
to do that. And yeah, so it's you have to be careful with that idea. But I think in general, it's how I view reality, that we do plan and go through, and then plan the next lifetime and go through learnings that we agree to and situations.
Do you feel there could be wild card? Like
Well, our wild card is us, in one
the free
sense.
will part.
Yes. But there could be a wild card person that enters in, to your life, but then how do you respond to it is always the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's part of the mystery of life. And we are living in a world with other people and other agendas and things, and people may want to pull you off your path or may or tempt you, who knows? But yeah, that's a good question. Is it a wild card? But yeah, we all can do what we do have the free will, and
Yeah.
that's primary.
I've been enjoying this conversation so much. Thank you for coming on the show.
Oh.
I just have to do our station ID. I just checking the time, and
Okay.
I was supposed to do that at the top of the hour, so we're a wee bit late, but
Okay.
I did remember we are getting to it. So if you are joining us now, thank you so much for being here. You are listening to Spirit Switchboard. We are airing live from the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM out of New Orleans. I'm your host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn, and today I have Dr. Scott Guerin on talking about his latest book, Looking
for Angels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Understanding and Connecting.
Yes. It's really it is really a guide. It goes from religion, angels and religion, to psychology, to science, and then modern day angels, from the get-go to how to initially make contact, how to expand our psychic senses. So wherever you are, you can plug in along the way.
And I like that it's covering from all different facets as well too, right?
Yeah.
And so what does science say about angels?
Well, science is first of all, science is our best guess of what's going on. Right? We're learning new things.
Yeah.
So you can't. The biggest thing is a remnant of the scientific revolution with Newtonian laws came to change the world. Why? Well, because everything was able to be predicted and organized, and gravity and motion and those types of things. So it was good in the fact that it created a world that's predictable. But as I say, there's no room for angels in a machine. You can't observe an angel. You can't put it in a laboratory. So a lot of people are stuck in that mindset. Like, I have to be able to, interview an angel, on CBS News, or study one in order to be real. And so the one thing, so science in general has no clear-cut answers. We do have thousands of stories and interactions and miracles and people's visions, that you can't deny. But as far as hardcore science, no. The thing is that there's a crack in the door of current science, because of quantum theory, where we're seeing that matter under 50 microns, subatomic particles act quite a bit differently. They can be in two places at one time. They can go from a wave to a particle. They can do a lot of things in there. So I say it's kind of blurring the lines between Newtonian physics and what spiritual reality.
Yeah. And that's how I've experienced angels and people in spirit, is they can be in 10 different places at the same time in a different way, presenting to different people. Yeah.
Well, that's the wave particle thing. I don't know if you're familiar with the double slit experiment, where They shoot electrons through two slits in a paper, and the electrons they theorized that the electrons would go straight, and there would be a pile of or multiple hits of electrons just on the opposite side of the slits. But what happened was that when the electrons went through the slits, they became not particles but waves, and it changed their dynamic. So it went from being in one discrete position at a time, and it's a little bit complicated, but one discrete position at a time, to a wave that has the possibility to be in all of the positions at the same time. And so right there you have a way that that's how angels can travel. They can take themselves and turn themselves into a wave function, and then when they have to be in a certain place, they change into a particle function. So that's one interaction there with the scientific community.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Can angels present in different ways?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the unknown, the third man, concept of like that person that helped, the tow truck driver that appears in the middle of the night, and the person goes back to thank them and like, no, we didn't send anybody out last night.
Right.
Those type of things. There's thousands.
The phantom nurse.
Yes, yeah, thousands of stories about that. So they can present, and sometimes I'll get the statement of they don't even care that about their name, because they're all for the greater good, and they're all tied into source. That it's not a big deal that it's Archangel Michael here. The big deal is that they're helping you or the situation. But certainly in different formats, and certainly in animals, can appear in different ways. Because remember, when you get out of the third dimension, a lot of stuff can happen. People and things can appear and disappear. They can appear to one person in a room when there's two people there. It's a different world. We have to at least keep our mind open that there could be a reality that's different from what we know and can feel and hear and see right now.
And that we have, again, with that free will, are able to ask them to come in a way that will feel most comfortable for us.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like not the 10-foot tall entity at the end of the bed at 2 a.m.
Yeah. And there's collectives. I don't know if you're familiar with collectives, or you speak, non-physical entities.
Yeah, if you would like to talk about the different levels or dimensional different types, if you would like to, whatever you would like to go down next, for sure.
Yeah, I think I think just one thing that I like when I'm talking to people who are just into this, they say, well, where do angels fit in? Where do we fit in? If you look at all the sacred texts in the Hebrew Bible, Christian Bible, and either Islam, which really takes a lot of the Hebrew Bible into their own, it all describes that God source, all that is, when she created the universe, they created the physical universe, created humans out of themselves, so we are divine beings. But at some point they created the angelic realm as a separate species, in a sense. They've never been incarnated. They are in lockstep with rolling out the will of all that is good and love source. Then you have us, and then we have our brothers and sisters that don't necessarily live in another country like Africa. They may live in another part of the galaxy. And I know that's not even within mediums in the spirits world, people are still wrapping their heads around the possibility of extraterrestrials. But I think we have to address it because I think it's more prominent. But they are like us in the sense that they're created beings, and they are separate from the angelic world. But they have mastered the fourth dimension and up. So that's how they can appear and not appear and kind of move and do those types of things. So that's That's an important thing. And that's the fourth dimension aspect. So the fourth dimension, once you've mastered that and moved to that, then you can dip into the third dimension, as angels do, as those who past do, those ETs can do. They come into our physical realm and can go in and out. So that's, I think, an important thing to remember, because then it explains a lot. To be honest, it's like the Occam's razor thing, that
Right.
if you have a lot of different theories going on, the most simple one is probably right. So it's that fourth dimension shift that is, I think, that is occurring. That will get it.
Contessa is just sharing and asking a question. I remember my son telling me that angels don't look the way that we think they do. He said they look a bit scary. That's why when they appear, they say, "Be not afraid."
Yes,
it's true.
Certainly in the biblical text, anytime there was an angel, people would say, like, they'd start freaking out. And whether it was because it was just a beautiful being with wings hovering over the ground, that could freak people out. And there was something kind of floating around the Facebook and the internet about they plugged in all the descriptions of angels in the biblical text, and it looked like this unhuman-like thing with eyes and wings, and it looked kind of terrifying. And if you do look at the descriptions of the cherubim and the seraphim, no, they're not human-like, but they can appear to be that way. So it's all the matter. Remember, we're like robots in the sense that we're walking through this world with video camera eyes, video cameras, microphones, and a memory, of things that we've learned, and we try and plug in and match up what we see and experience into what we know and what we can see with our eyes. And so, things may look a little bit different than what we're used to, but it really is. It's just because it's different and we haven't seen that. And the first reaction that a lot of people have with something that's drastically different from their reality is fear.
But when you get rolling on this road, it feels more comfortable to be there than it does here. There's more honest. Yeah. On the spirit level, there's honesty, that unconditional feeling.
Yes.
It's just a safe place to be. And when you do have those I had a very powerful experience, and I always say Mother Mary, and I had somebody ask me if I was Catholic, and I'm like, nope. And they gave me a hard time and said that I shouldn't call her that then. And I'm like, okay, I don't. So I don't know what to call her then. So it was such a weird conversation that this person was putting that.
I call her that.
Yeah. I said, but that's what I seem to call her. And it was powerful to me. And I remember whenever she's come in for me, and it was interesting because she came in when I was delivering my son, who had all of the Archangel Michael experiences when he was younger. And it was powerful when she stood beside me, and it was, his heart had stopped during delivery. There was all this chaos going on, and she was standing to my right, and I looked up at her, and I don't know, it was just the safest feeling. And from that moment on, I'm like, I don't even call on Archangel Michael when I need protection. I call on her.
Right. Yeah.
She's the one. So so leading into this, can all of the different angels or different realms present differently in how we are needing them to present to us? Like if we have a perceived idea, or if we have, a certain vision of what they're going to look like, is that how they're going to present to us? And, not compare our version to somebody else's version.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the whole key. I mean, their number one goal is to help us to remind others that they are light, that they are love, and that they are a source. And, we're on a journey to do that, a journey of remembering, a journey of expansion. And if I, just like I said, I don't want to see a 12-foot thing in my room. Well, then, why would they show up at a 12-foot person in my room if they know that I don't want, at least right now. So they come to me and I've stated that I really don't want to be freaked out, right now. But maybe someday I will want to explore more, I don't know, graphic ways or something. But if their idea is to help and they have no agenda and they have unconditional love, they're going to meet us where we are and what we're most comfortable with.
Since writing the book, do you find people are flooding your inbox with their angel stories?
Yes. Well, and people like my friend who was in the West Coast that heard the voice. She just knew I wrote a book about angels, and that's all. Like I mentioned, she had no religious experience, nothing, but she just kind of connected and said, "Yeah, what do you know about this, or can you help me?" And then others are the same thing. They're like, "Thank you for starting at zero for me, and helping me to make the first steps in that."
Bob is asking a really great question. Bob is asking, do angels dish out retribution as well?
Well, I mean, I think retribution to me is tied with judgment. It's tied with sin. It's tied with the biblical
Fear.
ideas of of all the things that is not love, that is not God, and so. If they do something if they could do something that might seem like retribution, because it's a difficult thing, like maybe I start to go to work and my car died. Is that because an angel's, punishing me? No. It could be because you're going to meet the tow truck driver and they need some words of wisdom or help or support.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, in my theological aspect, I grew up with people saying we're separate from God, we're sinners, there is hell, there is punishment, and if you don't follow these rules, you're going to be there. So that's gone. I've quite the opposite. We're part of God. There's no need of salvation. We're connected, and all we have to do is realize that, and then we'll be on our way home.
Mm-hmm. Our thoughts, words, deeds, and actions matter. They matter. All of our thoughts, words, deeds, and actions, and the intentions behind them, right? So
yeah,
it all needs to be in an alignment.
It's who we are. It's who we're acting and doing in this life, is being ourselves at whatever point in our journey we are. So they matter. They matter for us. They matter for the people that impacted by us. And
how it ripples out, right, to that collective consciousness of one.
Right. And, at the same time, it can be negative or it can be positive. Our loving deeds, our loving words, our loving actions matter, as you say, it ripples out. And that's the great thing.
Bob, when you ask this question, the first thing I think of is the movie with John Travolta with him as Archangel Michael, and he goes in and burns that church down right at the very beginning.
Oh, yeah.
The lightning comes down and away it goes. Grant Evans, who is part of the TOPS paranormal team here in Ontario, he's been on the show as well too. Grant is saying, from the Catholic perspective, angels are all perfect creatures and beautiful. Fallen angels look scary as God forces us to see them that way, so we flee them and their evil. Not sure if that was brought up as joining late. No, it was not brought up. And thanks for popping on, Grant.
Yeah, and then some people asked us to, like, why didn't we get into like demons and that realm? And we talked about it, Nichole and I, my co-author. We talked about it briefly, but really two things. One, it would have doubled the size of the book, it would have doubled it.
Right.
And then two, we wanted to stick with light and positive and love and stick with the good guys, because that's where the whole universe is pointed to, going in that direction. And yeah, are those entities out there? Absolutely. But at the same time, we wanted to concentrate on the good guys.
And knowing that light came first, so you
Hmm.
don't have to be scared of that dark if you're leaning into that. If you lean into the light and
Yes.
you surround yourself with that.
Yes.
Cheryl is asking, how do you differentiate between a visitation dream and just the mind subconsciously thinking about the person?
Hmm. I would say, and appreciate your thoughts on this, I would say it is the feeling. As far as, I guess a visitation dream, if what I'm thinking about is just a memory of them, and a time you've had with them versus, versus the actual being, the actual person. So I think it's like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's like the substantive, it's the feeling of home. That's how you differentiate, in my mind.
Vivid. It's vividly
Yes.
clear. And a lot of times a dream will fade by the time you have your first coffee in the morning. So a
Mhm.
visitation dream where they're trying to give you a message or connect with you, you remember every single detail
Yes.
forever. I
Mhm.
encourage people to write their dream out. If they feel it's a visitation dream, write it out and stick it in your sock drawer for 3 months, and then write it out again, and then compare the two. And when
Yeah.
all the details are the same, then you know that like you've had some kind of a visitation from their spirit in the best way that they can reach you. If you're so busy during the day, they connect with you during dream time.
Yeah.
It will,
And
it
then with
will never fade away.
my family member Bob, there's many times I would hear him in my mind, but he would say things that he'd normally say, like
Mhm.
all the years, and I'm like, okay, that's a remembrance. But when I'm in a situation and he comments on it for that situation, like addressing something that's happening now, then
Yeah.
like, well, okay, that's definitely not me, just piecing together a memory.
Does reincarnation come up for you in that, like when you were researching angels? I don't know. Becky's asking, if our soul can reincarnate, does that mean our soul can be in two realms at once, here in a new human body as well as on the other side?
Wow. It's a loaded question.
It is a lot. And
Yeah.
I struggle answering reincarnation questions. I struggle answering it.
Oh, well, for me, reincarnation, absolutely. I mean, it just,
Mhm.
there's uh, lots of, documented as you can document,
Yeah,
past life regression and hypnotherapy, a
agreed.
lot of books written about that, and a lot of verified stories about people, um, saying like, I used to live on the east coast of England, and
Mhm.
whatever. So there's some evidence to that if you really want to dig for evidence. Um, but we didn't address it in the angel book, other than, that they could be part of your team that speaks to you and plans when you're between lives and are planning the next, where you're going to incarnate next. Could be that way as
Right.
well. Um,
I've always felt it was like soul qualities, not the whole soul. So qualities going in, like shared, so
oh yeah,
those memories into that new soul, and
yeah,
then tapping into, still being able to tap into that person or that spirit energy on the other side. Um, I don't.
yeah. And then you get into the, the more advanced, theoretical physics with
Mm.
quantum realities, and that,
Oh yes.
there could be, we could be living this life now, but at the same time and I heard one person say, if you come to any major fork in the road in your life, and you could have gone one way and you went the other way, there's probably a you work,
Yes.
living the other
I've heard
decision that you
that too.
made. And then and then that's it. Once you get out of time, once you leave this physical reality, and time is one, then like time, because it's just a whole different ballgame. Then
And
everything happens all at once.
possibilities.
So I could be experiencing, many different lifetimes at the same time.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
It's great.
Here's a kicker. I just heard this the other week. Someone was talking about timelines and living different timelines. And he said, suppose our different timelines are other people. Like we're living, and that's how we're all, that every person we meet is us in a different timeline. And that's how we're all connected.
That's interesting.
Brilliant.
That's
trippy. Think about it. It's so cool. Think about that.
It's trippy. And I find I always question why people want to delve into reincarnation. Like, what is the intention or the incentive to understand reincarnation? For me in my head, I've been tall and shorter than what I am. I have been thinner and heavier and male and female and good and bad. I feel like I embrace the concept. I have been all of those things. So, if we're bringing forward something in that I've brought forward from a past lifetime, is why I get scared of heights and why I'm really drawn to doing art. It's facets of me, and those facets I've brought forward because it's going to benefit me in this lifetime or help me learn. Right.
I was reluctant for many, many years to, I don't even want to know, because suppose I was an a-hole in some, 16th
for sure you
century.
Were.
I don't want, well, wait a minute. How do you know that?
Because we have to. Because
of
the duality of it. How else do we learn to be really good?
Okay, I get it. All right. Okay, I'll accept that. But so I had a reading with someone who last 6 months ago, and she went into my past lives.
Right.
And she said, you were a priest, a Catholic priest in like the 14th or 15th century in Ireland, and the church that you were on, that you were working in, was built on a Druid temple.
Right.
And as a priest, you found out about this, and you started incorporating some Druid concepts into your teachings, and became, kind of known for that. And she said, that's your life. You've been doing this your whole life. And again, that ringing true kind of came through to me, and it made me feel good. Like, all right, that's good. That made me feel good. Like I'm on the right path. But I did. Here's the joke. I did research to see if there's any Guerin priests in the 14th century, and there's none there.
But did you find a name that you felt resonated to that could potentially be you somehow?
No, actually, the Catholic Church did that a lot. They tore down the Druid temples and built their churches. So that was kind of common. So I didn't find anything else.
I did an energetic healing session with somebody, and some past life stuff came up, and she told me very similar, like, you've been in this role as a teacher, but she kept showing me lifetime after lifetime where I was underneath a man who didn't like me being in my power. So I'm like, okay, well, I understand that. But she said the same thing, like being in this role of teacher and spiritual leader, or all of those sorts of aspects that have played in somehow. I like what Bob is sharing here. Reincarnation to me is like getting a second chance to show yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's it. We're on an improvement. And some people would say you can redo it. Oh, is it the Conversations of God books? Neil Donald Walsh. There's a comment in there, like, a lot of people want to go over. They choose to relive this past life because they want to get it better, and that's a common thing, and then at some point they're good with it, and then they go on to another scenario. But yeah, all for the better.
There's a book when I'm teaching the parenting course, which I haven't done in a long time, but it's Child of Mine Know This by Rebecca White Cotton, and it's geared for children, but Neil Donald Walsh wrote the foreword in it, and I love it. And it's that concept of choosing your family, and we have different lifetimes together and play different roles and forget the agreements that we've made before we and all that kind of stuff, and why we have uncomfortable situations to push us to remember the agreements. It's a great book.
Somebody once said like the whole amnesia thing, like, we forget. Why don't we remember all the lifetimes? And like, well, we have to learn. What do you mean we have to learn? Like, well, suppose you wanted to learn about what it's like to have no food. And like, you can't just say like, oh, I'm not going to go down my kitchen with full of food. No, you've got to be in a place where in a situation where there's no food, no possibility of getting, you don't even know how you're going to get your next meal. That's when you know what it's like to be in that situation.
And that kind of answers and segues into this question from Kathy. Do we have to reincarnate? And we have free will and we don't have to, but as a loving soul, when we are on the other side, because we're all loving, we'll go, oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
I'm not going back there. I'm not going back there. Okay.
I'll help you to go back in there.
Well, again, the conversation with, and that's all my life, but just they present the idea that we go several hundred lifetimes, and then when we finally achieve like a pure soul, a pureness, we can choose to forget everything and start from zero, or we can stay a spirit and help others along their journey. Yeah. So I mean, that's just one idea.
And that concept of volunteering is in another Neil Donald Walsh book, The Little Soul in the Sun. So it's a children's parable book. So it's worth the read, because most of those children's parable books are for the adults anyway.
Yeah.
For us to grasp the concept as we're reading to our children. So I just need to be mindful of our time. Where can people find you? Do you have events coming up?
Sure.
Social media? What's happening?
Yeah, the best place to find out what I'm up to is on my website, angelintraining.org. It has books and resources, and I'm just starting it. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I have spiritual coaching offering to help people kind of make their way through things. And then I'm on Instagram, which will probably be the best way to find out where I'm going to be next. And that's Instagram, Scott Guerin, author. We're going to be at my co-author and I, Nichole, will be at the Body, Mind, Spirit celebration in Cincinnati in November, I think 14th, 15th. That'll be the last time that we're going to be there for some time, because the book will be a year old. And we have different things going on. So, but otherwise, I'm kind of doing a lot of publicity and talking, and I'll announce that and post on that on my Instagram account. Yeah. And the way to get to the book is on Amazon. We have paperback, hardcover, ebook, and audiobook, which we narrated, which was a trip and a half to do the narration. That was very hard. Or you can go to lookingforangelsbook.com to get signed copies and a gift box, or the book itself. So lots of different ways.
Did I read that you consider we're all angels in training?
Yes, but it's a little bit in this misnomer. I started that years ago when I wrote my first two books that kind of depict my journey. But
light workers in training.
What's that?
Light workers.
Light work, yeah, perfect. Yeah, because technically, as I mentioned, angels, we're a different species than angels, but we are spirit beings, or divine, and we have a lot of work and fun ahead of us.
Thank you, Jackie. Contessa.
Yes, thank you, Jackie.
Thanks, Contessa. Thank you, everybody, for participating in the chat and all the great questions and sharing parts of your personal journey. I appreciate you being here and creating the space. Next week, I have Kelly Harrell coming on. I hooked into her as soon as I found her website. There's a tag that she uses, and it's elder well, die well, ancestor well. And she's talking about, how we can tap into nature and understand our connection to everything that's all around us, so we can elder well and pass well, so that we can be the best ancestor in spirit for our loved ones here. So
Wow.
we'll be talking about her book and asking her all kinds of questions next week. So please join us. It feels like it's a great extension from what we were chatting about today with you, Scott. So thank you so much for being here, and have a good week, everybody. And we'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Had a lot of fun.
Good night.
Good night.